I'm doing a teapot from one of my daily drawings that I post on my blog. And I did a whole bunch of teapots. And I had realized that I can use my daily drawings to come up with what I want to draw for these drawings. It was kind of a revelation. Killing two birds with one stone. Well, tickling two birds with one stone. I don't know. Scaring two birds with one stone. And so now we're doing a teapot today. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. So I'm going to think about the light coming from here, which means this is going to be in shadow. But not the top. I had never met an electric tea kettle until I went to Europe, and it was quite perplexing. What do you do? How do you put this on the stove? There's no bottom. It really was perplexing because nobody, I think my, wherever I was staying, they assumed I knew what that was because, you know, the entire world uses electric tea kettles. And I had never seen one here in the States because we're more coffee drinkers, so I know all the coffee pots. I know all the coffee pots, like the Cuisinarts and the Melita coffee filter, Melitas and the Melita coffee filter rolled right off my tongue because it's, what do we need from the store? Some Melita coffee filters. Number 2. So I was really familiar with coffee. We come from a coffee family. East Coasters, I think more on the East Coast, like to do coffee after dinner. I think that seems really strange to a lot of people. Just like I think electric tea kettles are weird. Like, why would you have coffee after dinner? It's usually decaf. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it comes from the 40s when you used to have to keep the furnace going by shoveling coal in there. This is way back, and this is more in small towns, but you'd have to keep putting coal in the furnace. Like my grandfather did. I know there's loads of stories about my grandfather, but this is another one, back to back. It's a grandfather story marathon. Yeah, he used to, every 2 hours, he would get up and put more coal in the furnace so that his family would stay warm during the winter. So maybe this is something that stayed from those days when they used to have to stay up at night and feed the furnace. So the reason why I'm filling this in isn't necessarily to indicate color, but it's because I want to differentiate where the light's coming from. So the light is coming from the top. Therefore, this is going to be a little bit darker over here. Could have made it lighter, but I didn't. So now I know what an electric tea kettle is, what it does, what it's for, what it looks like, how to use it. In fact, we had a really good one when I was working over at the Gap Studios. We had one that I hadn't seen before that had temperatures that it would boil to, warm up to. And then what would be a good, what's it for? Like, you want your tea to be heated up to 120, but you wanted your coffee to be heated up at 140. Those are completely made up numbers. Do not quote me. I have no idea what would be a good number. I just boiled stuff. Now, I have taken lately to having an afternoon treat, very similar to being in the office, having an afternoon treat at around 3:30 of making myself a small cup of Medaglia d'Oro instant coffee. And I had this instant coffee in my cabinet because I was playing around with some mocha flavored desserts. So I thought, well, I don't want to get the Nescafe or whatever. I don't really like that flavor, but I'll try the Medaglia d'Oro. They have an instant coffee. So I got some of that, and I tried it out for my recipe. I don't even remember what I was making, but I tried it out for the recipe. I ended up making coffee extract, which turned out better. That's another way you can do it. You can do it both ways, I think. But I chose to do coffee extract because I think it was a little bit more powerful. And the way you make coffee extract basically is just crushing up the coffee beans loose, like roughly, and then putting it in alcohol for about 10 days or so, or a week. So after that little experiment, because I love to play with my food, I've been doing a lot of cooking for the last couple of years, especially because I go on keto and have to make all these special things to emulate regular food, because it's like, I need a delivery system. After I tried that little experiment with the coffee, I had this, thing of coffee in my cabinet. And so it was sitting there one day, and I was like, I wonder what that would taste like just as coffee. And because it was espresso, I didn't make a big, I think I made maybe 4 ounces, which to me isn't big. I usually drink about 16 ounces a morning of coffee. I think most of us do. So I tried the cup of coffee and I was like, you know what? I really like this. So I've been doing instant coffee for the last couple of months for my afternoon treat. And that stuff really, it dissolves really easily into water, so you don't have to have it piping hot. You don't have to stir it very much. In fact, this is a little gauge. If you already make your coffee, you know how sometimes it's hard to get, you have to put the whatever it is in first and then stir it up. But if you put, like hot chocolate, if you make hot chocolate, you need more chocolate in it or want more chocolate in it, and then you add more chocolate, it just sits on the top like a big clump, and then you gotta work it in. Yeah, this doesn't do that. This just goes poof right into the water, because I have wanted to add more coffee on occasion, and I was like, oh boy, I should have done this at the beginning, and then I put it in there, and it's like, whoa, that's so great. I don't have to, it's just melted right in. So I would do that, but then my coffee would be too hot because it just was boiling on the kettle, and So I would actually hear it start to boil and I would take it off the burner before it even started to whistle. Because I have a regular old American teapot. So, yeah. Regular old American teapot. Second trip abroad was to Ireland. My first trip abroad was to Amsterdam under wonderful circumstances. I got to house sit in a converted hospital. That's a whole other story. I'll have to make a drawing so that I can talk about that. But this little trip was to Ireland, to Dublin. My friend that I met through other friends here in California, he was, I think, living here short term and then went back. He was Irish, from Dundalk, and I found myself in a position where I was recently laid off from a job and I got a severance and I had time, so the timing was perfect. He was going back to Ireland. I said, "Hey, do you mind if I join you?" He said, "Absolutely." And I made my way over to Ireland. It was never on my radar, but boy, was I glad that I did that, because Ireland is absolutely gorgeous, especially I went in the winter. And in the winter, everything is green, green, green. It was just beautiful. And in the very Catholic country of Ireland, they do Christmas like no other. When we were in Dublin, we went to Grafton Street and they had all the lights put up and all the shops had their displays all festive. It was really, really beautiful. And then we went to the pub. We met some friends at the pub right there. And of course, they all pour Guinness. Guinness is made in Dublin. And so yeah, I'm doing kind of the handle here, but it's gonna fade off, so I have to think about the direction of the light. So I highly recommend Dublin in the Christmas time. But my friend would say, "Would you put the kettle on, pet?" I just remember I say that every once in a while when I think of kettle. "Would you put the kettle on, pet?" And in Ireland, I was introduced to the concept of not having a shower. Apparently, almost all the Irish, unless I suppose you're very wealthy, they just have a bath. They draw a bath, and they have a bath. That is, yeah, as is flat. Let's make this a little bit round. No, it's got a hard edge on there, so I'm not gonna make this round. Just gonna finish the edge so we have some definition, and then let it do its thing. And also, if we're gonna have a little bit of shadow, should add some there. All right, let's make this round. And yep, we're gonna do what I do to all my spherical objects is I pretty much do half. Dark. This is going to be the bulk of the shadowing here. That's my tea kettle story. I'm going to Ireland. I took a couple day trips I went to Kilkenny. And the history of the castle of Kilkenny is that it was a fortress until they blew out one wall. And now it's got a nice little courtyard. Well, it had a courtyard before, but now it's an open-ended courtyard. It is no longer a fortress, really. It only has 3 sides. The reason why I don't go crazy with this shadow is partly due to my instrument. The point is very, very small. So if I decided that I was going to go, and it's a little bit on the hard side, the graphite. So if I decided that I was going to go hard, I guess I could show you, but it just wouldn't, there would be a lot of hard strokes, and it would be harder to get in there and add to it. Does that make any sense? Now we're already getting a little bit of some form, so I'm gonna make this a shadow just the way I want it on this side, so that the highlight is more pronounced. And then I'm gonna work on that side, probably for the remainder of this drawing. And then the bottom, because the bottom has to have what it's got to. There we go. This looks uneven because I kind of skipped it. Alright. There, that side's done. Now let's get to this and be like, okay, I want my highlight to stop at this value. Right now, I might add, you know, it actually should be full, but I'm just going to pretend that it is, here we go. I'm going to pretend that it's brushed aluminum, because brushed aluminum would not have a hard highlight, it would have a soft highlight. So, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's going to be my edge. So we're going to use that as the foundation for the gradient. We're going to go from here to here with all my jazzy business in the middle. Let's get this to exactly where I want it. Nice and even. Make sure we don't lose this shadow. Now, we're going to work in this area. I'm going to shoot to have the darker part right in here, because that's kind of how shadows behave-ish. I guess it depends on your lighting. Ask a photographer. It all depends on lighting. Lighting is everything. And lighting is a lot of, within art too, it's not all about lighting. It's very off, equally forms, negative space, positive space, composition, all that goes into photography too. Really, it's what your tool is. Your tool is either your hand and an instrument, or it's a camera. But the end result is going to be an image of some sort. The end result's going to be an image of some sort. I'm starting to get a little darkness from the darkness to the light. Yeah. Alright, now that I'm building. I'm building tone. I'm not building color, I'm building tone. A little at a time. Very meditative. Because that's really, drawing is about seeing. And even though I'm not looking at something and it's not life drawing, it's still going to be about really paying attention. Depending on what your end result, what you want to be your end result, it's about paying attention. If you have a goal in mind, like I want this to look like this when I'm done with it, then everything you do is going to work towards that. The one thing that I do miss when you do analog versus computer creation, image creation, is, Command Z is my best friend. I can manipulate things over and over and over and over until I am satisfied. And when you are using analog, if you're using real 3D graphite, things like this, you can't always Command Z things, especially if it's in pen or watercolor. So that is an advantage to digital, using the computer as your tool. Now that said, you are probably going to bring it in to the computer anyway, because you have to scan it to send it, because everything is digital. And that you have another opportunity to fix things, because then you can go into what you did by hand, and you can go in there and start to change colors, but that's extra work. I mean, why do it twice? If you're going to manipulate colors in the computer, why wouldn't you build it in the computer? You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you what, these tools that they have these days, they emulate paint so well. And one of the upsides to that is you don't have to use paint that's potentially toxic or could create discomfort or health issues. I know I was interested in pastels for a while, and I did, a weekend workshop once, and did some nice stuff, but the more I learned that all that pastel dust, if you have asthma, do not do pastels, or COPD. Do not do pastels, because it really is, it's just dust. It's not that it's toxic necessarily, it's that it's a particulate of some kind, and a particulate of any kind is gonna irritate. So you see how I built up on that? Now I'm going to try to even it out. Even it out, even it out, even it out. Make it nice nice and smooth. Our brushed aluminum, our brushed aluminium. It's really funny, I was watching a tiny houses video, and there was an American who had relocated to New Zealand, and he was speaking an American accent, but he called aluminum aluminium. So that's like a let's do this side of this too. There we go. Got to match. So I think at this point I will work on the bottom and get this curve going on. Now, I'm not going to do reflective because I already have this reflective bit here, and I don't feel like complicating things. So I'm just going to make this go to the edge. I got that song into your head. I'm either sorry or you're welcome. I guess that's up to you. I saw Heart in concert a few years ago, and it was amazing. Oh my God. They did Crazy on You. I just got chills thinking about it. A wave of chills just came over me. If they come through town, I'm telling you, go see them. They still got it big time. Her voice is as amazing as ever. Yeah, I like that because I think there's kind of a hard edge, a soft curve along the bottom of these things anyway, so you know, like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and have it kind of indicate that. That lid looks off because it doesn't have tone like the rest of it. So what can I do? I mean, it's getting all the light, so it's not necessarily inaccurate, but what would, maybe just fill it like it's got color. So it's not glaring white. Yeah, I like it. All right. Let's get this bad boy centered. And there is your teapot. All right. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. See you next time.